Call the meeting to order. Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Here.
Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Milani.
Here.
Trustee Compass.
Here.
Trustee Reardon.
Here.
Trustee Radishevsky.
Here.
Mayor Pico.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the September 6, 2022 Committee of the Whole minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole of September 6, 2022.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Milani.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Staying, I was not here.
Trustee Radishevsky.
Trustee Radishevsky.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Microsoft Enterprise Agreement.
And Joni, you'll have to speak up a little bit louder. You come across real quiet. So,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to recommend approving a contract with Dell Technologies for renewal of a 3-year Microsoft Enterprise Agreement utilizing Illinois Central Management Services Contract CMT 1176800 pricing, and recommend authorizing the village manager to execute all related contracts subject to village attorney review.
Second.
Is there any presentations here or just? No. Just making sure. Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Milani.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radishevsky.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Village Hall Generator Project, ITB 22-049.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Milani.
I move to recommend to the Village Board to approve awarding ITB 22-049 to Airport Electric Company of Chicago, Illinois for a total amount not to exceed $400,927.95, $348,633 plus a 15% contingency of $52,294.95.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Milani.
do we know what the original budget estimate was for this?
I do not know.
I guess
It's below.
We are below budget. Okay, good. And the lowest bid, I think, from what it looks like, with contingency, is lower than the second original, or the second estimate then, so,
Correct.
okay.
I believe it was 6.
And this is a replacement?
It is a upsize and a replacement. The current generator at the Village Hall only serves IT services. It doesn't serve the whole entire building.
Right.
And so this, if we had an event where we need all the other departments working, they would be out of power and lighting and HVAC. So
Makes sense.
it was about $650 is what I understand.
Right.
Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Healy.
Joel, did we get anything for the old generator? I mean, it's still working, it's still functional?
We will reuse that generator at another location. I think we have a
Within the
location.
village?
Yes, I think PD has an area that we can use.
Trustee Healy never lets anything go to waste. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Milani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radishevsky.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Road pavement assessment presentation.
So what we're going to do here is give you a presentation on the road pavement system that we evaluate. None of you were here when we did this last. And you're going to see some of the things that we did. I think it's important for people to realize is when we did this last, it was an eye-opener for me because I had only been here about a year when we saw it, and it was 40% of our roads were in poor or very poor condition because of, frankly, kicking the can down the road and using that money for other things over the years. And in that year, we were blocked from spending more money. And then in 2019, we had we added 3 new trustees. It actually took all 4 of our votes to actually get us to spend more on our roads because the existing trustees continued to try and block that. Well, you're going to see here the impact that that had. on our roads, and it was pretty positive, because of all the things the village does, our roads and our parks, and keeping those things in our buildings and keeping those things in good working order is what's critical. Joel?
Appreciate that, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and trustees. Tonight, we are talking about the roads, and I would like to introduce from Applied Research Associates, Joe Stefanski. He'll be providing some of the details of this brief. Next slide, please. But I wanted just to do a quick background, like the mayor talked about. In 2012, we formed this relationship with Applied Research Associates, and we did the first assessment. And then every year since that, they've been updating our pavement management system. So anytime we have a new roads get done, they update that system. And then in 2018, like the mayor mentioned, we did a re-inspection. And then this year, Joe and his team did another re-inspection. And we're going to show you those highlights at this time. Turn it over to Joe.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, trustees, for this opportunity. I have the fortunate circumstance that I was actually around for the 2012, so I was here from the start, got to see the 3 survey iterations, all the work in between, and the work working with everybody at the village. It's been a good ride, and I thank everybody in the village for that opportunity. So pavement management, you can see the ovals here. We'll touch on all these things that are a part of what we call pavement management. What is pavement management? It's an objective, data-driven approach to helping an agency decide what treatments to do, when to do them, and where. It stresses an early life, proactive treatments, lighter, less expensive treatments. Oh, did I do that? I apologize. Starting early in a pavement's life, and this is opposite of that worst first approach where an agency will just treat the roads that are in the worst condition at any given time. One of the reasons you can see that default or example performance model, that black line being an example performance model, we know what freeze-thaw does to our pavements. And every spring, everybody that drives on the roads knows that there's a lot of deterioration when that water gets down below the pavement. So we're trying to catch that in pavement management. We're trying to assess where's the pavement condition, where we're at the top of that roller coaster ride, catch that before, do something to that pavement before we go down that roller coaster, protect that pavement while it's in good condition. Okay? So by measuring the health of the pavement, we use that tool, as well as in a pavement management system, we're using optimal use of the village's funds, best bang for the buck, and ultimately provides a consistent methodology over time to maintain a roadway system. Okay? So we start with collection. You can see some example pictures here. We're collecting laser data that we're using to identify the location of the crack, the severity of the crack, as well as the type of crack, and ultimately we aggregate that information into a rating. You can see the software implying that we're getting PCI Pavement Condition Index. That's our rating system for the village. You can see there that the colors and the subjective categories, qualitative categories, and we'll see those later in the graph. All right, so I wanted to give you some examples of some of the images or some of the ratings of the village, and also discuss just lightly what kind of treatments we would use. That first picture there, PCI 80 to 100, we're not doing too much. When we get into that next category, 60 to 80, that's where we want to be proactive with crack seal, light patching, strategic, specific repairs where we need them. Once we drop below that, see that 40 to 60 range, that's where we see we're at that top of that roller coaster ride. That's where we want to consider lighter, less expensive global treatments. So a thin overlay, maybe a microsurface, something that we can apply the entire roadway, but keep it at that, keep a good pavement in good condition as long as we can. Once we drop below that to the 40s and on down, those two bottom pictures, we've likely lost that structural integrity. We've had that damage below the surface of the pavement. We really can't we can't maintain that pavement structure with a lesser expensive treatment. At that point, we really need just to slot it in for a more major rehabilitation. Okay? All right, so here are the results. These are the last two inspections. So the first,
Can I interrupt for just a second if you go back to the last page? So this is important for some people, from our residents, to know that once they slide to a certain, degradation, we're not going to spend money to try to keep them up to speed. We're not going to do crack sealing and all those other things because it's not going to help. But that doesn't mean your road's going to get fixed right away because there's other roads that are deteriorated more. So it's part of how we prioritize things. So your road may be in worse condition than other roads that are getting worked on, but a 2-inch mill isn't going to fix it and it has to be completely reconstructed. So those are all priorities that we place with our budget because in the long run, we're better off doing some 2-inch fixing to keep roads for a long time than letting them deteriorate as well by using all of our budget just to completely rebuild roads. So it's a big balancing act. So is that a fair statement?
that's exactly. Anything you do to those bottom two pictures other than a major rehabilitation would be a Band-Aid. Make it look pretty for a few years. You're going to see very quick accelerated deterioration because likely the distress on those two roadways is coming up from the bottom because we've got so much damage underneath. Making it look pretty on the surface isn't going to do any good for that road. All right, so these are the last two inspections, 2018 on the left, 2022 on the right. You can see the PCI average for 2022 was a 59, so it was a 10-point increase from a 49 from 2018. And the main thing I wanted to stress here was that if you look at that 2018 projected in mid-40s, we did do better in 2018 than we thought using 2012. And then even more important, from 2018 to 2022, we projected that we would be in the low 50s given the expected spending level that we were expecting from 2018 to today. But with the actual spending level, we're able to gain several points on the network PCI up to a 59. So I think that's, we get that measurement. We didn't get a measurement in 2019, 2020. You only get those real measures to see what was the effect of that every time you do the inspection, and you can see that the difference is pretty big, and it was because of the investment that the village made.
And I do want to point out while we're here, and I know we're going to see more slides on this, but this is a direct result of Trustee Milani, Trustee Katsinas, and Trustee Healy stepping up with me to increase our spending on these in 2019. And as many of you may recall, we were accused of being criminals for doing so in 2019, and have continued to be in 2020, 2021, and 2022. I think we still get the occasional robocall accusing us of being criminals because we fixed our roads. So this was the result of what we did and what they did by stepping up and taking all of that grief and all of that heat. We've actually improved our roads almost 20%.
Okay. So here again, the distribution of the PCI scores of the ratings. This time we're adding in the 2012 ratings, and you can see the percentage of the network in each of those qualitative categories. And the 2022, no surprise, the fair or better category has the most. We're almost 3/4 of the network in those top three categories. That fair would be that that falling knife part of that graph or roller coaster part of that graph. So some of those pavements may be ones where we can still save. Some of them may be lower, but in any situation, we're happy to see those three categories being 3/4 of the network. And then, of course, the very poor. That's, less than 10% would be, if an agency asked me what should be our goal, I would say less than 10% in very poor. You've got half that. So that's, a huge difference between the 2012, 2018 to 2022. Okay. So none of this happened overnight. This was a deliberate or intended commitment that the village made. It started in 2002. That new cross-section design beefed up roads that needed attention. We knew that before that. We were really putting Band-Aids on all the roads. So that new cross-section was a big deal. And then in the last 8 years, we saw the incorporation of pavement preservation activities, so crack sealing, patching, even some rejuvenators, looking at some of that really early life attention that we could give the pavement. Again, keep a good road in good condition. The mayor put it, that additional funding, that's the best way to get your pavements in better condition. So that's, of course, us engineers that geek out on pavements, that's what we want to see. And then they're getting rid of that worst first approach. We know that 30 years ago would have been, just normal to do that. So using benefit costs, looking at a road of, let's get the best benefit for the lowest dollar amount, that's huge. So in that statement at the end there, we kept it stable in the 6 years between the first 2 surveys, and then a substantial increase this year. And I think it speaks for itself. All right, so after collection, we bring that information back in, we analyze it, and the goal is to run that analysis in the software, output a plan of the when, wheres, and whats for treatments. First thing we look at is the performance model. So we don't want to use a generic performance model. We want to use something that's customized to the village's pavements. You can see we plot the PCI versus that age. So every point here is a block of PCI score versus the last time that the surface was replaced. And you can see we run a best fit line through there. We think this is a little bit conservative, but we want to stay conservative in this. This is used in the software, that green line. When the analysis doesn't have enough money to do a project, it effectively docks it 1 year down this green, and that's its effective or predicted PCI for each year that we don't have a inspection. Okay?
So if we go back to that page, so what we see there from ages roughly 15 to 25 is that those are roads that aren't going to improve much with preventive care, but they're not going to get terribly worse over those 10 years. And it's really at 25 years where they start to fall off again. Is that kind of what we can see there? Is that there's like a 10-year window where doesn't make sense to spend a lot of money doing preventive stuff on it, but we're still going to get 10 more years of useful life out of it?
Yep, and I think you can see that on the left side we're above that. We see the newer pavements are doing better than we expected, but of course you're going to have some of those pavements that are not worth investing in because those points would be that Band-Aid approach that that stuff there it's not a good investment.
And they drop off rapidly from 0 to 15, which is why it's important to do all that preventive maintenance to keep that from happening.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, a lot of times those pavements in that, what we call that middle of life, that fair category, they don't look like they need attention. They are comfortable to drive on. The driving public isn't complaining about those roads, and that's really when we want to go in there and keep those roads, bump them up a little bit, get a few more years out of those roads.
We actually, it's a standard practice. We go back into the neighborhood 3 years after we paved and just look for any cracks, and we seal all the cracks to help that longevity.
Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Reardon.
What I think is a similar question, if I understand what you're asking. Does your analysis look at sort of the quality of the work that was done on the roads like 10 years on, saying are they lasting as long as they should? Are they breaking down quicker than they should? I mean, do we need to look at our vendor and say, the kind of road they're putting down isn't the best one for our, needs based on how much traffic, that type of thing? Is that built into the analysis somewhere? To give us recommendations to say, look, you're doing good and keeping up, but really you should probably change your way that you're resurfacing because it's breaking down quicker than we see in our other clients, that kind of thing.
Sure, and that's certainly what we look at when we're looking in that upper left, hand corner here and seeing those pavements are lasting, longer than average that we would have seen 10 years ago, that we know that something is changing. Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Compass.
So along that theme, and I understand that you're not going to know all the outliers and the anecdotes to each, but as I look at like the year one, right, we have one marker that's below 50. Do we understand like what caused that? Is there an event that causes that, or like why would we have a road in that condition at that age?
It could be an outlier. We do get outlier data where it's a section off a block that was completed last year, but that little part was not, and we reset the age incorrectly. But there are outliers where, something was overlaid and it just, had a worse, structure underneath. I'd venture to guess a lot of the points pretty far off the graph are just, outlier data.
Understood. Thank you.
It's 2,600 points, so there's a lot of segments in the network. All right, so that was the performance model. We also have to assign or tell the software how to consider a treatment or project feasible for a given section. And you can see that at first there's two tables here. The one on the left is that old standard, so anything that still hasn't been touched since 2002. On the right side, the new standard. The predominant decision maker is on the left side of each of those. That's the PCI. You can see the 5 different categories, again, those subjective or qualitative categories. And then across the top of each, we are using one of the distresses that we're capturing in the inspection. That gives us a good indication. It's a surface distress, but it's the pattern that we call structural, alligator cracking. Looks kind of like an alligator back. We see that in the wheel paths, and that's a pretty good indication that we have issues underneath the surface that, maybe that is that cracking that's coming up from the bottom. And again, that's where we see that we've likely lost a lot of that structure. And you can see in the alligator deducts greater than 25, the 2 rightmost columns in those tables. That's where the mayor is talking. Those aren't worth doing a lot until you can do, reconstruction or really major rehab, even in the new standards. So otherwise, you want to let those sections defer. And lastly, obviously that budget. So this is that expected funding level over the next 5 years that we are programming in to the analysis to run that 5-year analysis.
And back to that budget, and I know we talked about this, this is a decrease over what we've been spending, slightly, but an increase over what we were spending prior to 2019. Because it was about $4 million we were spending, I think we bumped it up to near 8. So we're ratcheting back a little bit now that we're getting more on top of this, but still trying to keep ahead of the game and get our roads even further along.
And here are some of the results. So we ran several scenarios. So first, that $6 million budget for that anticipated amount for the next 5 years. We also ran a reduced amount, so $4 million, something that was closer to what we were used to back in 2018 and prior. And then you can see some bookend unlimited spending or no spending, kind of couches those results in the middle. And you can see that we are seeing predicting an increase if, with that $6 million spending over the 5 years, and we would predict a decrease if we saw that $4 million, that we would not be able to maintain the current average. We'd fall into the mid to lower 50s. So with the $4 million, we would see, with the analysis is showing we would have an underfunded budget. So that $6 million is certainly what we want to see for keeping, as well as increasing that average over time. All right, and kind of digging into the results a little bit more. This is the percentages in each of those qualitative categories. First, there's a couple of major divisions here. The $4 million 2018 simulation, that's what we would have showed here 4 or 5 years ago. We were at that star, we were at about a 50 PCI, and we were projecting relatively consistent PCI over the next 5 years with that $4 million spending. And you can see 2022 is here twice. So this second block here would be what we are seeing today. And now, well, first off, our inspection, we're up to a 59 instead of a 50. And now we're predicting $6 million, so we're seeing an increase. And you can see that we were predicting to be at a PCI of 50, but with that spending, the first time we had the ability to see where we're at 5 years later, we gained almost 10 points on the network, and that was pretty much the that attention to that budget, investing more in the pavements pays off. You can see, look at this red, we were, close to, well, first off, when we measured it, we were, in the upper 15 to 20%, not predicting a whole lot of change, but lo and behold, when we actually did the inspection this year, we had cut that in almost into a third, and, we're seeing that going down over the course of the next 5 years with that assumed spending level. And here is the map of that, and this is the expected, so that's $6 million a year spending. This is at the segment level, so this is what comes out of the analysis. You can see color-coded by year. So effectively, this is our best look at what's the best bang for the buck. So these are the pavements that, maybe are at that top or somewhere in that, that roller coaster ride where we see a benefit to trying to maintain that. Otherwise, they're the major rehabs at the bottom of the, into that very poor category. So what we do, we take that information. That is not the, the ultimate plan. We work with Joel and the folks at the Public Works to come up with the next slide, which is based on this concept of subdivision or groupings, or what would be a practical project limit. So we aggregate the PCIs of all the streets in a neighborhood, so the surface ratings. We also aggregate the size of each of the streets, and we basically aggregate all that into this spreadsheet. We take some different metrics to get a fair ranking system. We want to give a fair count to the smaller subdivision or smaller groupings, as well as fair count to the larger subdivision. And then also, of course, that PCI, whatever the average and the lowest PCI segment in a subdivision is. We rank that. We work with Joel to identify how many projects are feasible in that. And you can see here we're showing that potentially we could get down to 74 subdivisions in the next 5 years, which is pretty amazing that that level of commitment. Looking at the process, that we can see that many streets getting done over the next 5 years. There's going to be there won't be a lot of needed road work that gets by, and that's, again, for those of us that geek out on this stuff, that's great to see.
And I think an important point for residents is that we rank these things. This is done analytically, because we always hear, all the trustees hear, oh, you spend money on this part of town, you spend money on that part of town because the rich people live over here, because this people live over here. We don't look at any of that. We look at what the road is rated at and the cost-benefit analysis of what we're repairing versus not repairing, because that's the best way to handle the village. And if you looked at a map of where all the roads were done, they were done all over the village, because it just depends. And of course, in some areas that are new, they'll get crack sealing and things because they're new. And other areas that are older, where the roads are deteriorated, they're going to need a full reconstruction. So we balance all of that stuff. And I know we've had some things like Fernway, Laguna Woods, and those need complete reconstruction because they didn't have sewer systems, they have ditches, and there's all kinds of things and that delayed it because of they're so big. But we do look at this to prioritize our dollars so that it's most effective spend, and we don't look at where people live.
Mayor, also, we just account for water projects or storm projects. Obviously, we don't want to put a brand new road in and then rip it up, because we have those kind of projects. So a subdivision like El Camino had to wait 1 or 2 years to get their road, which will happen in the spring now, for the storm and the water work to be done first, and then we'll get the road. So they're on the list, but we've programmed it accordingly to account for that.
And I'll give you a really good example that half of the town certainly knows about. It's Wheeler Avenue. So Wheeler, we get complaints all the time about all the potholes on Wheeler, and this is even prior to Joel. So with John Ingram, those complaints were constant, and we were spending a lot of money actually fixing potholes. But we have a water project that we talked about at the last board meeting that's costing millions of dollars. There's no sense in rebuilding a road to tear it up and rebuild it again that's going to be rebuilt during this water project. But the potholes became so expensive to repair that we decided to take a different approach and do a 1-inch mill, which certainly for a road that was that far gone isn't going to keep it for 10 years, but it was going to buy us 3 or 4 years and not have to fix the potholes every year. It was more effective than the 100 grand we had to spend doing that was more effective than fixing potholes every year, and bought us 4 or 5 years. So those are the types of things we try to do, because it makes absolutely no sense to rebuild a road and dig it up 5 years later. That's what IDOT does. That's not what the Village of Orland Park does.
That concludes, we'll take any other questions.
Any questions or comments? And that last comment I made, I think, is really important to understand. I think we all know that the state of Illinois, the county of Cook, they do a lot of things that don't make a lot of sense. We see it all the time, where we tear up a road, then we have a water project, and 2 years later we're tearing up a road, or we build a section of road incorrectly on 159th and have to rebuild it 2 years later, right? So we see that kind of stuff. We try to avoid that here in Orland Park, because that's not good. That's not a good practice. It's not the way you would run your business. It's not the way you'd run your home. So we try to run it that way and be smart about that. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sportsplex Custodial Services RFP Award.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to recommend to the Village Board to approve awarding a 3-year contract to Total Building Services at a cost not to exceed the proposal amount commencing on December 1st, 2022, and the contract with Blooming Facility be terminated for cleaning services at the Sportsplex effective November 30th, 2022, and recommend authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract with Total Building Services and cancel the Sportsplex portion of the Blooming Facility contract subject to village attorney review.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
do we know, is it the Total Building Services, or is it Blooming Facility that we use at the Village Hall?
Village Hall is Blooming Facilities.
Okay. Are we thinking we're going to continue using them here, or are we?
At this time, yes.
Okay.
My understanding, Joel, is they're doing an effective job in all the other buildings, but they're struggling with our sports
there
facilities.
is a few struggling other areas, but we're trying to work with them, have meetings with them to improve those. There was an initial couple months rolling them out, getting good qualified people. They were having hard time getting the good staff. That didn't help. But also just managing the expectation of our staff. So we are struggling with a few other areas, but we're working with them on that to improve their service.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Any non-scheduled visitors?
Is there anybody here to speak? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
motion to adjourn?
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. We're adjourned. See you at 7 o'clock. Call the meeting to order, call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Here.
Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Malani.
Here.
Trustee Compass.
Here.
Trustee Reardon.
Here.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Here.
Mayor Pico.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the September 6, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meeting of September 6, 2022.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Abstain, I wasn't at the meeting.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Accounts payable approval.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Healy.
I move to approve the accounts payable from September 6, 2022 through September 19, 2022 in the amount of $4,064,123.34.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda, item A, payroll approval. Item B, Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, software licensing renewal. Item C, emergency fire main repairs at Civic Center payment. Item D, Village Hall Generator Project, ITB 22-049. Item E, amend Title 7, Chapter 4, number of Class D liquor licenses ordinance. Item F, McGinnis Slough multi-use path intergovernmental agreement with Cook County for Invest in Cook funding. Item G, McGinnis Slough multi-use path and intergovernmental approval resolution for Invest in Cook funding. Item H, resolution authorizing application by the village for Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program funds for sidewalk and multi-use path along 143rd Street from Wolf Road to Southwest Highway. Item I, resolution authorizing application by the village for Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program funds for multi-use path along 167th Street from Steeplechase Parkway to 104th Avenue. Item J, resolution authorizing application by the village for Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program funds for multi-use path along 82nd Avenue from Arrowhead Lane to 151st Street. And item K, resolution authorizing application by the village for Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program funds for the McGinnis Slough multi-use path through the Commonwealth Edison easement from LaGrange Road to Wolf Road.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to approve items A through K of the consent agenda.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Memorandum of Understanding between the Village of Orland Park and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Village of Orland Park and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, and move to authorize the village president or his designee to execute the agreement upon approval of the board.
Second.
Good.
And before I open it up to the board for comments, I'm going to comment on this. By now, most of you are well aware of my comments on the Orwellian named Safety Act. What is extremely disheartening is that the local media barely covered this for the 21 months since its passage. And while the national media has brought attention to it recently, finally, the local media is covering it. But they are pushing the false narrative of the governor and those who voted for it. There is an effort to say that this gives judges the ability to use discretion to hold someone who is violent. They want us to believe that they passed a bill of over 750 pages that simply give judges discretion that they already have. If you believe that, I have oceanfront property in Arizona for you. Here is where I will point out that all but 2 of the Illinois 102 county state's attorneys have opposed this act, and 2 of those recently filed lawsuits against the state to stop it. Of the 2 that supports the act, one of them is Kim Fox. Enough said. As with COVID, the media acts like the communications arms of the Pritzker administration. Calvin Coolidge warned us, wherever despotism abounds, the sources of public information are the first to be brought under its control. Colin Powell said, "The most effective means of ensuring the government's accountability to the people is an aggressive, free, challenging, untrusting press." That does not seem to exist here in Illinois today. Most of the media acts as the Ministry of Truth from Orwell's 1984. Much like the Wizard of Oz, they say, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." Well, we're heading full steam toward January 1st when this law, which is the most dangerous law to citizen safety ever passed, goes into effect. We know the following: that Cook County under Kim Foxx has shown no interest in keeping us safe. The governor and a majority of state legislators have now demonstrated it has no interest in keeping us safe. President Biden and Orland Parks and Cook and DuPage County's congressional representatives have shown no interest in keeping us safe. In the last 21 months, we have seen them vote against banning fentanyl when we have an opioid crisis, open our borders and violate our immigration laws, abandon our military members and citizens in Afghanistan, and have the House of Representatives pass a bill nationally that is worse than the Safety Act for our police officers. Fortunately, the U.S. Senate has stopped it, for now. You know from experience that staff, the board, and I will not take this lying down, and we will do everything we can to keep you safe, because that is our most important job. For this reason, our team creatively found a way to work around Kim Foxx, the Safety Act, and our tone-deaf congressional representation. This is a first-of-its-kind 5-year memorandum of understanding with ATF that makes 2 of our officers special agents for the ATF. This allows our officers to go straight to the Assistant U.S. Attorney and bypass the county and the Safety Act to get federal charges against violent criminals. Federal prosecutors will prosecute these crimes, and federal judges can use bail to detain violent criminals and keep them off our streets. It won't work for every violent criminal, but the ones it will get them off the streets. Even better, it doesn't impact our budget or commit our officers to do anything that we don't want them to do. This is yet another example of an outstanding police department finding ways to keep all of us safe, all of the citizens of Orland Park safe. Creative programs like the mobile and targeted response units, and now this, are why we have the lowest index crimes in 27 years, and we're the 8th safest small city in the United States in 2021. This is great work, and why I will continue to say that we have the best police department in the state. I applaud the leadership of the department, our village, and our board. Together, we will continue to fight the dangerous public safety policies of Kim Foxx, J.B. Pritzker, and our congressional representation, and do everything in our power to keep you safe. This is just one more step to doing so. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Reardon.
I'd just like to highlight a couple points you made there at the end. It certainly is a testament to our department that, the ATF wants to work with you. They're going to be located here. They trust you guys. They know that they have, a partner in the fight, and specifically on the gun issue. It's something that the village, we see it every week, every month. It's something that we'll have right here in Orland Park to help with that battle. So it's a really good kudos to you guys. Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Malani.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this forward. I mean, this agreement gives our police department and our officers the ability to follow through on these firearm-related incidents, just to make sure that these offenders get charged under federal statutes, since Cook County continues to service their docket via their catch and release program. So this is a great step in the right direction, and again, thank you for bringing this to us.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0, and I will add that it's unfortunate that we have to do something like this, but it's a testimony to what an outstanding department, what an outstanding staff, and what an outstanding board that we have, that we are doing these types of things in the face of the problems that we're facing at the county and state level.
Executive Conference Room Audio Visual Equipment, AVI-SPL Contract Amendment.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Reardon.
I move to approve the amendment to the village's agreement with AVI-SPL LLC dated December 1st, 2021 for audiovisual implementation equipment and installation services for the Village Hall Executive Boardroom for an amount not to exceed $44,118.79, and authorizing the village manager to execute all related contracts subject to village attorney review.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Healy.
I am just wondering, I'm not enthused about this motion. I don't know why we need to spend that money when I personally, and I know I'm not high tech, but you know, we've got the conference phone there that seems to be working fine. I'm not sure who's that tone, but but the conference phone seems to be working fine. I don't know why the executive boardroom, you know, why it's necessary to spend this money.
Any other comments? So the one thing I would say is that the conference phone we have in there is about 25 years old-ish technology, and because we can have people come in via Zoom and those types of things, that we need to have some video capability in there, which is, it limits us in executive session when we can't do that. So that's why we need it. That's where technology is going on, you know, and that's where meetings are going, where a lot of that's handled via technology, which right now we just flat out don't have in there. So, and the conference room isn't used. It could be used, but it's not used because we don't have any of that capability. We have it in other conference rooms, but we don't have it for our boardroom. Any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
No.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski?
Aye.
Mayor Pecom?
Aye.
Sportsplex Custodial Services RFP Award.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
move to approve awarding a 3-year contract to Total Building Services at a cost not to exceed the proposal quote commencing on December 1st, 2022, and that the contract with Blooming Facility be terminated for cleaning services at the Sportsplex effective November 30th, 2022, and move to authorize the village manager to enter into a contract with Total Building Services and cancel the Sportsplex portion of the Blooming Facility LLC contract subject to village attorney review.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski?
Aye.
Mayor Pecom?
Aye.
Recreation Parks fee increases.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve increasing Sportsplex open gym fees, athletic field rental fees, pool membership, and the daily admission fees as outlined above.
Second.
And before we comment on that, I do have a question on these fees. Well, apparently you have a presentation, but also this presentation was given to the Rec Advisory Board?
It was.
Correct?
Yes.
And did they pass it?
We discussed the whole thing, and in the end, they recommended all the increases.
Was the recommendation unanimous?
Yes.
Okay, just curious. Go ahead and give us a quick.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. I'll do a quick presentation here. So we are proposing an increase to fees at the Sportsplex, so that'd be the resident and non-resident fees. Athletic fields with and without lights. We have categories for different percentages of residents on each team. Also the Centennial Park Aquatic Center memberships and daily admission fees. And these are all precipitated by rising costs, as we all know, in labor, materials, supplies, services, and all the improvements we're making to our facilities. These fees were all reviewed by the Rec Advisory Board on September 7th and were unanimously approved for recommendation by the Advisory Board. Here you can see the Sportsplex open gym fees. They were last increased in 2019. We're recommending a modest increase for residents, so just $1 effective November 1st. We have a resident or non-resident fee for youth that's 8th grade and under at $10. We'd like to recommend that that goes to $12, and non-resident adults from $17 all the way to $20. We project that that could raise an additional little over $19,000 in revenue by increasing those fees. Our athletic fields, so we have fields with and without lights. The top part, you can see the current fees, residents, so that's 90% residents on each team. They pay $15 for a 2-hour slot. If there's 63 to 89% residents, they pay $30, 50 to 62%, $50, and less than 50% pay $90. With lights, you can see the fees for the same percentages at 20, 40, 60, and 100. We're recommending just a $5 increase for each one of those categories. So the residents at 20, 35, 55, and 95. So 95 for those with less than 50%. And then with lights, the same thing. So just a $5 increase per 2-hour slot. One thing to note is that non-residents on those teams, less than 90%, each one of those players pay an additional $75 per person to participate each season. We project that could bring, for same level use, an additional $16,300 for next year. The pool last year, busy season, had about 65,000 participants or attendees at the pool, generated a little over $300,000. You can see our early bird rates for residents and non-residents. Our residents at individual, couple, family, senior. We sold 786 of those this past year. At our non-resident side, you can see those rates. We sold 162 of those. We're recommending the increases you see below there. So resident individual to 105, couple to 155, family to 195, and seniors to 65, modest increases. And then for our non-residents to 255, 380, 510, and 610. Our membership fees, so you can see our regular season fee for this past year. Really, these increases here, just cleaning up those fees. You can kind of see how they're uneven at the individual at 121, so we're just cleaning that up and moving it to 125. So very modest increases there. We expect the increases for both the early bird and the regular season rates to earn an additional $18,200 in 2023. And then the last one is daily admissions fees at the pool. So this past year, we did raise fees this past year. It generated over $500,000 in daily admission fees. Residents for a full day is $11. During the week, when we close at 7, they can be admitted at 4 o'clock, or sorry, at 5 o'clock. For $8, and then on the weekends they can be admitted for $8 as well when we go to our abbreviated time slot. Sorry about that misspelling for the proposed resident fee. It's we're proposing their increase goes to $12 for a full day admission, and then at the abbreviated evening slot that would go to $9. For non-residents, the current fee is $23 Monday through Thursday. On Fridays through Sunday and on holidays, their fee is $25. We're recommending that goes to $25 Monday through Thursday, and then Friday through Sunday and holidays that goes to $26. We project that it'll earn an additional $43,000 in the next year. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Reardon.
Couple points. I fully support this. I think it's modest, which is in line. My kids are in a lot of different sports that go around a lot of towns. Ice hockey rental has gone up. Field costs for softball has gone up all over the place. So this is, this is right in line with that. But I want to be clear that when you say additional revenue, so the citizens understand, it's not like we're making profit on this. We're still subsidizing this to a significant extent in our budget, but this is just kind of offsetting some of that. It's not, don't get anybody confused with like we're profiting an additional $500,000 because we're charging people for the pool. I want to make sure that's clear.
We subsidize as a policy, and actually when this was first put in, because we don't have a parks district, right, which runs inside the village, we subsidize 52% that's how much is subsidized from other tax generators like sales tax, so over and above fees. And back when that was put in place, it was actually projected to actually become less and less of a subsidy over time, and we've never really changed that. And I know we've talked about starting to change that and moving to a little bit more user fee oriented, but it's still a significant subsidy. And you have to look no further than the Centennial Park, which brought in, a Centennial Pool brought in $323,000. It costs us over $1 million to operate that facility. Right. So there's absolutely no question that we do a lot of subsidies, to your point. Mm-hmm. So residents should not confuse this with that at all.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Milani.
Can you go back to the field slide? Oh, yeah, this is, just wanted to point out all the other ones had like when the last time these rates were changed. I believe the athletic fields, the last time these were changed was 2010, right?
That is correct. They've never been changed.
So this is a very modest change in because we want to make sure that they're still available to everybody and everybody
affordable,
has
right.
access.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Katsinas?
In light of the huge village subsidy for the pool, I honestly don't think the non-resident billing or fees for the pool are enough. And I think they should be about 2.5 times that of what a resident pays, and that would bring each of them up slightly. Also, on the weekends is probably our heaviest traffic or participant, number of people there. I would like to see that increased, because I have heard from residents that try to do the drop-in, and it's booked. So, is it all non-residents? I don't know, but it may give our residents more of an opportunity, and if people want to utilize the pool, I think they should pay for it, because the people that live in the village do.
Any other comments? My suggestion would be to approve this as is, but I have no problems with you looking at potentially raising non-resident rates for the pool a little bit higher, and to do a little investigation on that, and you could bring them back, and we could approve it to this rate, and we could always bump them up more during the budget season. But I agree the pool should be for our residents first, and if we feel that we would benefit from raising that to slightly higher, and I'm okay with that. Any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Any non-scheduled citizens or visitors?
Anyone here to speak?
Board comments.
Board comments, Trustee Radiszewski.
I have no comment.
Trustee Healy.
I'm just going to assume that everybody knows that September 17th was Constitution Day in America, and this is Constitution Week, where we celebrate our Constitution.
Do you know why it was called Constitution Day?
Because that's the day they signed it in 1787.
I just wanted to make sure you had it right.
I'll skip that paragraph.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, good. This will shorten it up a little bit.
Not since 1787 have we faced a challenge to the Constitution as we do today. So as you all wave goodbye to your rights as they're going out the door, taken away by our governor and other people, just remember this could be the last Constitution week that's celebrated next year. I'm sure, with the loss of our rights, I'm sure it'll be only 2 or 3 day week for that. So that's it.
Trustee Reardon.
Oh, that one.
I just want to again congratulate the police department on the agreement to work with the ATF. I think that's going to be a really positive, great thing for both your department, for your officers, as well as Orland Park and the surrounding area. So that's great news. And Joel, good job with the roads assessment. This is my first time kind of seeing that, and I know it started a while before, but that is exactly how government is supposed to be run. You get data, you do the analysis, and you make decisions based on that. And so that was really impressive, I thought. And I'm glad to see that that's going on here and continuing. So good job. That's all.
Trustee Katsinas.
Wanted to say thank you to Public Works for having the garage so clean for the Brewfest, which, by the way, was, I think it was sold out, if I'm not mistaken, Ray, wasn't it? Okay, very close to. But it was nice to see a lot of young faces there, too, and a lot of our residents there. We had a really, really good time. So thank you, Ray, for all your efforts. The tables looked great. The food was amazing. So was the music and the beer selection. So thank you for that. And also, we had a birthday over the weekend. Trustee Radiszewski was her birthday on Saturday, and she's not here for us to say happy belated birthday. So I just wanted to express that to her. Happy belated birthday, Joni.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. See, I'm celebrating it like Constitution Day. So.
Trustee Malani.
Trustee Radiszewski, we'll save you your bundt cakes for the next time we'll see you.
Thank you.
We'll buy you new ones the next time.
They'll last. Don't worry about it. I still have mine at home.
No, you don't.
They have to be gluten-free. So if they're not, go ahead and eat them.
So, yeah, again, thanks, Joel, for the work at Public Works. I heard the Brewfest was a great success, a lot of people there. Appreciate all the effort in getting that prepared, and everybody else that pitched in to make that event a success. Speaking of events, on October 1st, we'll be having our annual Great Pumpkin Party. There'll be 2 sessions from 10 to 12 and 1 to 3 on October 1st. Both sessions have a maximum capacity of 500 people, so check our website for more information and get registered and bring out the family. I'd also like to recognize that we had 3 athletes from the Special Recreation Owls who competed at the state golf tournament in Decatur on September 10th. Out of 3, we brought home 2 gold medals and 1 bronze medal. So congratulations to the athletes that participated, and as always, thank you to our staff that assist with these events and make them happen. So, thank you.
Trustee Compass.
So we have another anniversary to celebrate tonight, but it's nowhere near as old as Constitution Week, so sorry, Trustee Healy. A little over 1 year ago, precisely, Chief Mitchell presented this board with an idea that had a very low cost, but an incredible potential value that has since more than proven its worth. Chief Mitchell asked this board for a different kind of K-9 unit, a type where Orland Park would be an early adopter in implementing. This isn't to take away from the great work of Officer Zimmerling and K-9 Maverick and what they do in tracking fleeing suspects or finding their illicit goods. Maverick is the expert on finding criminals. Our newest K-9 unit, however, would focus on the victims as a comfort, particularly after traumatic events. With our approval happily given, Support Services Supervisor and as the Director, Rich Miller, went down to Broward County, Florida, to train with our newest officer. 1 year ago, tomorrow, Leo was introduced to our village. Since then, I dare say Leo has become one of, if not the most famous employee. Rich and Leo have had an incredibly productive year with at least 88 official visits and many more countless unofficial ones. His work has included visiting hospice patients, de-escalating conflicts involving those with special needs, visiting schools suffering from the sudden loss of a loved one, and comforting first responders after the Highland Park shooting this summer. It's not just Facebook and Instagram posts for Leo and Rich. There's been an incredible amount of compassionate work done, and we are very thankful to have Leo, excepting perhaps the chief. Hopefully Leo doesn't christen his bag once more. And while I know I will likely embarrass him with this, I would be remiss not to say that Supervisor Rich Miller is directly responsible for the success of this program. From carrying and training Leo to all of these visits, the majority of which are above and beyond his already very busy, full-time and many hats job, Rich has been instrumental in delivering this comfort. I know he has a clear and deep love for our community, and I am grateful that this partnership with Leo has given Orland Park the opportunity to see more of Rich as well. So with that, I say happy anniversary, not just to K-9 Leo, but to the team that is Leo and Rich. I hope this excellent start is the pattern for many more years to come.
Thank you. And Leo was actually in DuPage yesterday at a Running for Heroes event, which I happened to be at, and then lo and behold, there shows up Leo with Rich Miller. And of course, Leo was happy to see me, but he was happy to see everybody. And I will confirm that there was breakfast food there, and Leo does like donuts. In fact, I think Leo likes pretty much anything that you would feed him. So, but he made a lot of people happy there as well, and he's a great addition to our community. My comments are going to be more towards some stuff that we've been dealing with or have been in the region for the last 10 days. That a lot of questions have been asked of the trustees and of me, because by now you're aware that Lori Lightfoot and J.B. Pritzker have been shipping migrants to the suburbs. And I've heard repeatedly how concerned people are that they'll be sent to Orland Park. I share these concerns. I think the board shares these concerns. First off, these policies from Lori Lightfoot and J.B. Pritzker are both immoral and they're illegal. Both of them should be ashamed of treating people like chattel. Why should we be surprised, though, when they have been treating our residents and citizens like serfs since they've been in office? They have endangered us all, As we know from the recent Inspector General's report, the people coming across the border illegally are not being vetted properly. It is inconceivable to think that there aren't common criminals, members of criminal organizations, and terrorist organizations among the people that are being shipped to the suburbs, many of whom are innocent people. They have both flouted the laws of our nation, and they think they are above them by declaring Chicago a sanctuary city and Illinois a sanctuary state. Why should we be surprised? J.B. Pritzker has been acting like he's in a monarchy since COVID. Let me be very clear. Orland Park is not a sanctuary village. This is unacceptable from them. If this is attempted, the village will take action. First, we will treat these people like human beings and will not engage in shuffling them around like J.B. Pritzker and Lori Lightfoot have. Second, we will keep our residents and legal visitors safe by doing everything in our power to vet and document those that are brought here. Third, we will explore every legal option available to us against the state, the county, and the city of Chicago. Lastly, we will keep you as informed as legally possible every step of the way. A civil society and a nation cannot survive with uncontrolled immigration, allowing lawless residents within its borders, and with laws like the Safety Act. All of these actions are designed to encourage and enable criminality at the expense of law and order and cannot be allowed to stand. We will continue to fight for the safety and well-being of our residents and our citizens. And with that, I again applaud the chief and the staff and the board for approving the agreement with ATF, and that agreement goes for the next 5 years until 2027. Thank you very much, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Hi.
Mayor Picco.
Aye. Adjourned.